Hey everyone, Will Brink here, brinkzone.com, and today I want to review the Aera Pilot Watch. And before I get into that, I want a little background discussion, and I'll put timestamps in this at some point. People can skip this part if they don't want to hear it. But so as I've explained in some previous videos, that I am, I would say, an enthusiast, a watch enthusiast versus a collector. So what that basically means is, I don't tend to collect a large number of watches. I probably don't have more than 4 to 6 at any one time, but I've been a big enthusiast for 40 years. I mean, since I was a teenager, I had my first cheap watch and worked my way up over the years. So having said that, recently I kind of went down the micro brand rabbit hole, and this will be number 5 reviewed. The previous micro brands were all brands that I had heard of, that I'd seen mentioned in some of the forums. I'd seen some advertising. I watched also some reviews on YouTube and such. So these were I think fairly well established, known micro brands to try. Well, this one from Aera was not. They're a relatively, if not, or very new company. There really was very little about them that I could find online as far as reviews. No talk at all on any of the major forums that I could find, and all that. And I discovered them, I think, through a Facebook ad, probably. And some people don't like the Facebook ads and all that, and I don't know why. I mean, I honestly, Facebook ads that come up obviously are targeted at what they know I'm interested in. And honestly, almost everything so far and that I've ever clicked through on Facebook that showed me that I bought, I've been very happy with. So just FYI on that. And that's a variety of things, whether, not just, this is the only watch I bought. But anyway, so that aside, this one, I really felt that I was taking, obviously, a much larger chance on, basically an unknown brand to me. I couldn't find any really reviews. There were some on their website, of course, but you obviously, as you expect, they're going to be glowing and all that. So this was kind of taking a leap here. But again, from looking at the design and the materials used, and the one like little video they did have of the owners talking about it, I felt that I was willing to take the leap. And in a nutshell, I'm really glad I did. So just FYI on that. So let's talk a little bit about the design. For one thing, I've never owned a pilot watch. I've always been almost pretty exclusively a diver watch guy, which I honestly didn't even realize till fairly recently. Somebody pointed out in my collection and said, "Boy, you really like your divers." And I went, "Wow, they're right. I own nothing but divers." Again, I just didn't even make that connection, because sometimes it just goes right over my bald head. But anyway, I actually did almost intentionally decide, what, I want to diversify my little collection a little more. Sold off a Tudor back bay recently. Picked up a Fairer GMT, which I review, which I will compare a little bit apples to apples in this review with the Aera. So, and another thing, like I said, I'd never owned a pilot watch. I was never that interested in pilot watches, frankly. I'm really a tool watch person. I mean, let me just back up a little bit. Maybe everybody has their own kind of style or design they like. And I, by default, like tool watches. I like rugged, overbuilt watches. Dive watches, by their definition, are a tool watch that basically can go underwater at depths. That if anything, that, the very essence of a dive watch is a sort of an overbuilt, tough watch that can go underwater, that can be banged around, that tends to be kind of a rugged looking. Visually, I just like dive watches. But really, tool watches, that somehow just leads me to, to dive watches. So having said that, again, pilot watches never really attracted me because they didn't really always fit that sort of tool watch category for me. The designs were okay, but again, I just found them kind of dated and predictable. And it doesn't mean, like I say, so this particular watch, the design of it and the sort of the angle, and I think a lot of companies, again, or at least a number of companies, again, are sort of trying to find this new balance between a tool-oriented watch with the functionality of a pilot or a GMT or whatever. And I really like that. That's really attracts me. That now that I'm not always having to lean towards these dive watch / tool watch type things, I can start to diversify my watch collection, like I say, into some other tool-oriented designs. And that's what I think Aera has done here. And so when I saw the pictures, for me, it checked off all the boxes. So what does that mean? So basically, it has the elements of a pilot watch, which is to say, basically they tend to be large, obviously, because again, they need to be seen by a pilot. They're not small watches. They tend to be obviously very legible, very easy to read. They should be obviously very legible, very quick to read, not complicated to look at for obvious reasons. Because again, remember, pilot watches came out. These pilots were, in airplanes that they weren't even pressurized. It was probably cold. They probably were bouncing around, and everything. The last thing a pilot wants to do, or the last thing you want your pilot to do, is to have to look hard at the watch to see what time it is. Remember, considering there were no high-tech gadgets that they were using at the time for that use. So, and the other thing of a large crown is very typical of a pilot watch. Again, probably because it was cold and they probably had gloves on and so forth. So the essential elements of a pilot watch are in this Aera, but with a really modern look and twist to the watch, leaning towards, like I say, sort of a tool, more of a tool look. Now, you saw the pictures in the beginning. Obviously, I'm not going to win any awards for production values here. So if you're looking for, Teddy Boldazar levels of quality production on these videos, I just don't have it, frankly. Tech-wise, we'll talk about that a little bit. I don't tend to get real heavy into materials and tech because I just think that's a waste of time. I think people can just go look that up for themselves, but we'll talk about it. But design-wise, it really grabbed me. And I will tell you that one thing I will say is that, as you've all experienced, sometimes the pictures, it looks better in pictures than it does in person. Sometimes the pictures don't do it justice. And I will tell you that this watch is every bit as nice, if not nicer in person than than those pictures do it justice. So I will, like I say, we'll do a little bit comparison to another micro brand I think is right in the apples to apples. But let's just go over the watch briefly. So this is the watch here. Now let's talk. Now you can see that case. You can see that big, thick domed crystal sapphire lens. I really like that. So let's talk first about the case. The case is actually made of 904L steel, which, as some of you may know, is the steel Rolex tends to favor. But there are other brands that use it. Ball watches, I believe, use a lot of 904. The Wise Adamascus, which I review, uses 904. That's a micro brand. I believe there are some Seiko models that use 904L. I don't remember what they are. So it's out there, but it's not real common steel. I mean, 316 is, the default stainless steel that 95%, maybe 98% of what watches use. So these guys have used 904. I'm not going to go deep into 904 versus 316. You can look that up, and I also do discuss that at length on the Wise review. But 904 is a slightly different alloy. It's a bit more corrosion resistant. But the reality is, let's talk like real life reality. 316, most dive watches, which spend extensive time in saltwater environments, with just a quick, rinse off of fresh water are fine. I mean, they don't tend to suffer corrosion and pitting and all that. So I think in the real world environment of wearing one of these watches, I don't think you're going to notice a big difference. Now, if you're dropping your watches into acid vats and stuff, well, maybe the 904L is going to make a big difference. I think really the real difference let's say in the practical reality of claims that are made about 904 versus 316, the real difference in 904 is really that it has a luster to it, a different look. It's a warmer looking metal. It has a very different luster compared to 316, which is kind of a colder look to it. And if you ever look at a Rolex and ever wondered why it's a Rolex, something about the metal kind of jumps out at you a little more. It's a more lustrous metal when it's shiny. That's really the reason. Now, the interesting thing about this watch is they're not, you will note, this is a brushed 904 steel case, and I've never seen anybody do that before. Maybe such as the watch exists. If somebody wants to correct me in the comments section, but those watches I've ever seen use 904 take advantage of that luster, that gloss, that really nice shine and reflectivity that 904 will give you. And these guys have chosen to do a brushed 904. It's really nice. It has a really nice effect to it. And so I'm not being critical. It's just something I haven't seen. And I do feel like brushed, it almost looks like titanium. If I had to say the look of it, it's clearly not titanium because it's actually quite a heavy watch. But I would say visually speaking, it has that sort of matte gray look to it that titanium might have, with a little more, again, a little more reflectivity to it. It's not that sort of dull. It's not a dull matte gray like titanium can be. It's sort of something in between those. And it's very nice. It looks quite nice. It looks very pragmatic and more tool-like. So I'd give them a plus there. As you can see, again, that dome crystal sapphire, that is quite a chunk of sapphire. That could not have been inexpensive to produce. As you can see, the crown is a bit on the oversized side. There's actually a lume inside the crown. You won't, let's see if you can quite see that. I mean, obviously I got to turn the light on. See the dot in the middle of the crown? There's lume in there. That's a really nice effect. It makes it obviously really easy to see. And you can see pictures of that on their site. The backing, as you can see, again, pretty straightforward. I mean, there's closer up pictures that I put. So the backing is nice. Again, it's very tool, very pragmatic. It seems very overbuilt. I really like that about it. Let's talk straps, because I think this is a watch that you have to talk straps a little more in depth. I don't really talk. I mean, you can see my other videos. I don't go into great depth, but this watch really deserves some discussion on their straps. The straps, if you can see, look how the straps mold right into the case. There's no space. The straps, the way they made their straps, they are molded right into the case. Let me see. Versus that space you would normally get with a strap. Now, bracelets tend to be, more cut and molded right into the case, whereas these guys have made their straps, like I say, that goes right into the case. You can see that there's no space at all there. That's really, really nice. I want to say a few things about the straps. That this watch does not come with one strap, two straps, but three straps, which you get to choose when you're ordering the watch. Now, I don't know how long they're going to do that, but that is really nice. Now, and the nice thing about it is that you get to choose. It comes with the standard strap, this black sort of pebble leather, but you get to choose while you're ordering other straps, so whatever you like. Now, I chose, let me see if I can show you guys, and I was going to show you the cut. So I ended up choosing these guys. Now, you see the rounded edges on those straps, so they fit right up into the body of the. Now, these are the guys I bought. I chose. Sorry. You can get like a rubber strap. You can get a bright red strap. You can get these are sort of what I chose. So really, again, props to them on that. The way they built the strap right into the. It's really a nice touch. Now, the drawback, of course, is that it's going to spoil you. It's not that you can't use somebody else's aftermarket strap, but I can tell you once you've seen that strap just fit up into there like that, I don't see myself going to an aftermarket strap where there's going to be that space. I have to admit, that spoils you a bit. Two, the quality of the strap. Now, you could have said, okay, the straps are of minimal quality. They dump them in there, makes you feel good. You still end up buying an aftermarket strap, which frankly I end up doing with a lot of watches. Definitely not the case with this watch. These straps are really nicely made. They are, again, like the watch, they're really overbuilt. They're leather lined, as you can see on one side. The buckle itself also, they did not spare anything on the buckle. It's really, again, chunky and oversized and has a real authoritative feel to it. And when you turn the watch over, again, sometimes you'll get a nice chunky watch like this, and you'll look at your wrist and there's this little cheap bezel. So again, really have to give props on these straps. And as you all know, if you go, good aftermarket straps are not inexpensive. I mean, this these are easily $120, $150 straps all day long, if not more, depending on the brand and all that. So I really want to stress the strap situation. The other thing I would also say is that a lot of watches, people will look at them and say, you know, I like it, but it would look better on a bracelet. It should come with a bracelet. And I've also thought that and felt that about some watches. Definitely don't feel that way about this watch. I think this watch really is a strap watch all the way around. And honestly, I don't really care, nor any criticisms at all as far as not offering a bracelet. This is a strap watch. And I hope they extend the offerings of straps. And they've got a good collection of straps now, but I hope they, offer it, or more of them, should I say. So that's the strap talk. The company only offers 2 watches. That's the Pilot and their Diver currently. Both of them look outstanding. The one I have obviously in my hand here is everything about this watch: fit, finish, quality, outstanding. I have nothing negative to say. I did the loop test, of course, and got right up with the loop and looked at the lume and how that's been painted on the numbers and the hands. Absolutely outstanding. Really, I can't say enough about that. In the micro brand world, this is not an inexpensive watch, but I think that similar to the Fairer, which we'll get to in a minute, I think we'll do a little apples to apples comparison there, because I think these are similar companies in terms of price point and stuff. Outstanding. I mean, I will guarantee you that if you were to put a variety of name brands on this watch and put it in in an authorized deal, this would sell for 3 to 5 times as much all day long, if not more, depending on the brand. Now, you all know, if you've been in watches long enough to know that, materials and looks and all that have very little to do with what watches go for. And a lot of what you're paying for with watches, of course, is the history and the provenance and the resale value and the name recognition and all that, which is part of the ownership. I'm not, again, saying anything negative about it. I'm just saying that as far as, from what I'm seeing so far, as far as materials, quality, design, all that, this watch is undervalued, frankly. So let's talk about the final issue a lot of people want to know. Of course, the movement. The movement is a Sellita 200-1. It's an excellent movement. It is a solid workhorse movement. So far, I found this to be this particular one to be very accurate. I don't know if it's if they accurize it before it leaves. They don't say it. At least I didn't see it. So whether this one is regulated before it goes out, I don't know. The timekeeping that I'm getting suggests it, but I don't know. That might be something they should address at some point. But anyway, the Sellita 200-1 is an excellent movement. It's found in a lot of watches that cost more. So I don't have any negatives, anything negative to say there. I think that they have really done a good service with this particular movement, and I think it fits perfectly in the role of that tool watch niche that that they're looking for. So all in all, like I say, I think that considering the quality of the materials and all, I think you're really, I think it's really one right out of the park. Let me. A good quick wrist shot and show you how it looks on the wrist. And again, I don't have, as you can see, we're not doing high quality video here, but I think you'll get a sense. Now, as you'd expect, let's see, can I get this guy up here? Also, the coating is multi-coated, which is very, very clear. As you can see, a little bit of shine there, but this is the most legible watch I've ever owned. I mean, you're not gonna own any watch where you can look at what time it is quickly and at a glance. As you can see, now I have small wrists. I've got, I gotta go reverse. I've got 6.5-inch wrists. You can see the lugs do not extend past my wrist. Obviously, again, it's not a small watch, but that is the nature of pilots. They aren't small watches, nor should they be. I think this one is 43 millimeters. Sorry, I'll put that underneath. But so not a small watch, but it doesn't wear super large. It does stand up, as you see, a little tall on the wrist, but again, I think just because of the design, it doesn't feel that way to me. This is a personal preference on your end, of course, but again, you have to understand what the nature of pilot watches are. But what it does do, at least for myself and other people, is it passes the most important choice in terms of choosing watches, which is the lugs don't extend past your wrist. Now, if the lugs extend past your wrist, the watch is too big for you. that's the hard rule that I would tend to go by. If it does not, if the lugs don't extend past my wrist and I like the way it looks, then I'm happy. Otherwise, it's a no-go. Let's do a couple of comparisons. So I think the reason I want to compare these guys a little bit to Fairer is that these are very similar companies in that they are British-based and they are Swiss-made. They are almost very, very similar price points from a micro brand. Now, remember, Fairer has a lot more models, but for example, I do review this guy in another video. This has really, really come to be just a favorite of mine. I think Fairer, again, just like Aera here, just knocks it out of the park for value. Not inexpensive watches, but as far as punching above their weight for quality, it's a no-brainer. I would say that the comparison here, like I say, I think there's some good comparisons to be made. They're not perfect apples to apples because this is their GMT, which uses a different movement. But they do make a Pilot, which costs a little less. But this Aera definitely is much more in line with true elements of a Pilot watch as far as what they're really striving to do here. So I think that I do see some parallels between these two. There are some apples to apples. Very similar, like I say, similar company basics. Having, I don't know, I don't know who produces their watches for them in Switzerland, but whatever company they chose is doing a bang up job. What else can I say? I only thought I had one. Well, okay, I have two thoughts. Sorry, I got to go back a little bit on the straps. I actually missed a whole point I did want to talk about on the straps, and then there's one other thought I had about it. Strap wise, here's the deal with the straps. The one thing, because they fit so tightly, I will say that there's not really a quick on and off option. There's a quick release getting them off. They come off easily. Getting back on, I can tell you, is a little bit of a fight. And that's only because, again, the fit to the case is so tight and so exact that you really have to approach. If you see the angle that guy in, so when you're putting them in, you really have to learn to come in at exactly the angle. When you're putting them back in, you really got to get that exact angle when you're putting the new one in. You can't just kind of you're probably used to taking a strap on a quick release and just kind of going straight at it. Until I learned to change those straps out at exactly the right angle and kind of really push it in to just hear that click of those pins going, it took a little while. So I do want to say that there's always a pro and a con to this type of thing. And when you're having something that is that specifically cut to onto that case, you're going to have to get used to that. Okay. So the only thought I had about the watch going forward is I would love to see a model from them and where you really take advantage of that luster that 904 can achieve and go with the non-matted route. Two, if they were to do an open case back and put their own, so maybe a nice their own rotor on that, and maybe even use a Sellita, one of the upper tier Sellita 200-1s. Remember, the Sellita 200-1 comes in 4 options, so they do make them sort of by higher end, even in that same model. And what you get with that is even more improved timekeeping. You get a slightly better shock system. But I think if they were to offer this watch, like I say, taking advantage of that luster of the 904, using an open case back, maybe putting their own rotor on it, it would be really quite a watch. Now, it'd be obviously a different watch. It would feel different. It would be dressier. It might be less sort of tool oriented. And I would see that as another option. And they'd probably have to charge more. I mean, let's be honest here. But and I wouldn't replace that watch with what we have, because I really like what we have. But I could really see this watch being like a whole nother level, going that route as maybe version 2 or the sort of dressier version. Anyway, when I looked at it, that was some of the thoughts that I had. So I think that's it. Price wise, it's around $1,200, somewhere in that ballpark, US. I think that is a very, very fair value for this watch, especially with these straps. Now, again, we're not talking cheap straps. These are really nice straps, and that's probably that's got to be an additional, I'd say $350, $400 worth of added straps, somewhere in that ballpark, depending again on who you got them from. So my assessment is really good. I'd have to give this watch, as I have all but one brand so far. I mean, my experience so far with the 5 micros, I'm now 4 out of 5, where I just have to say, for the money, outstanding values, and sort of working your way up from the cost. You know, we're now working our way into, like, say, higher end or more expensive micros, and I've only had basically 1 out of the 5 that I just really didn't do it for me and got returned. So that's my review. I give this one an absolute thumbs up. I do not think anyone would be unhappy. If you're looking for a really modern, good-looking tool pilot watch, and you haven't done the pilot watch thing before, I think this is the place to start. I really love the look of their dive too, and I have to say, if I wasn't trying to get away from dive watches and diversify a little bit, I probably would have gone that route, but I didn't, and I'm happy I didn't. I'm very happy with this pilot watch. So that's all I have to report. I hope this helps. Hit the likes and subscribe if you like my very casual review style. And more to come. A really nice new watch that I just picked up, a Zenith Skyline, which is not a micro, by the way. And that'll be coming out soon. So I'll see you all on the brink soon.